stand by everybody. We have one commissioner that's trying to call in and we're having technical difficulties. So as soon as we get him straightened out, we'll go ahead and start. Good evening. Welcome to Kent County Levy Court combined meeting of business meeting and committee meetings. Before we open the special business meeting, I'll turn it over to the county administrator that'll explain how the meeting works via phone or WebEx.
Thank you, Mr. President. Yes, we are in this business meeting in the Levy Court chambers at 555 Bay Road in Dover. And we are also making it available to visitors via WebEx. And for those who may be joining us via the internet or over the phone, just a couple of brief instructions. There will be opportunity throughout the meeting, various points for public comment. And we will remind you at those points in time in the meeting when public comment is open. And but for now, we'll instruct you that to raise your electronic hand on your computer, there's a symbol at the bottom of the WebEx screen that you can select that will indicate to us that you're interested in making comment. If you're joining us via mobile phone, press *3 on your phone, and it will likewise indicate to our operator that you've raised your hand and you're ready to come into the meeting room. And we ask that before you proceed with any comments that you state your full name and address for the record. And if you're commenting during the public hearing portion of the meeting, we will have to swear you in prior to receiving your comments. And we'll remind our visitors of these instructions as we go. This is an official proceeding of the Levy Court, and as such, it will be following the adopted rules of procedure for Levy Court business meetings, as well as the Mason's Rules of Order. Mr. President, back to you.
Thank you. At this time, we'll call the special business meeting to order, and I'll ask Commissioner Hall for an invocation, Commissioner Masson for Pledge of Allegiance, and Commissioner Sweeney will offer some moment of silence for our troops and first responders. All rise, please.
Please remain standing for a moment of silence to honor our military, law enforcement, firefighters, paramedics, and other first responders who have lost their lives in the line of duty, protecting and fighting for our freedoms. We also honor all first responders and medical staff who have succumbed to COVID-19 virus complications contracted through close interaction with infected patients, losing their lives caring for others. Please remember these individuals who died in the line of duty, as well as keeping their families in your thoughts and prayers as they deal with the loss of their loved one. Lieutenant Chad Brackman from the Maricopa County Sheriff's Office in Arizona. Police Officer Michael Chandler from the Big Stone Gap Police Department in Virginia. Hey, thank you. Please be seated.
Ms. Tanaka, can we have a roll call, please?
Mr. Angel?
Present.
Mr. Buxton?
Present.
Mr. Hall?
Present.
Mr. Howell? Absent. Mrs. Maston?
Here.
Mr. Sweeney?
Here.
Mr. Pepper?
Here.
Mr. President, roll call reveals 6 present, 1 absent.
Thank you. We do have a quorum. Just like to make everyone aware that Commissioner Howell was attempting to call in to be with us via the phone. However, he had technical difficulties, and so far he's been unable to get in with us. I need a motion to adopt this evening's agenda.
So moved, Mr. President.
Second.
Thank you. Motion by Commissioner Angel, second by Commissioner Maston. Can we have a roll call, please?
Mr. Angel?
Yes.
Mr. Buxton?
Yes.
Mr. Hall?
Yes.
Mr. Howell? Absent. Mrs.
Yes.
Maston? Mr. Sweeney?
Yes.
Mr. Pepper?
Yes.
Mr. President, roll call reveals 6 yeas, 1 absent.
Thank you. This evening's agenda has been adopted. The first item is a public hearing. It's an ordinance regarding reapportionment of Levy Court districts. And it falls under Commissioner Angel. I'll turn it over to you, sir, and for any discussion or comments.
Well, before I turn it over to Mr. Pedramaj, I just would like to have our commissioners stand up that represented us so they can be recognized for this. Ladies and gentlemen, would you please stand for giving us a hand in the reapportionment? I thank you very much for all your service. Thank you. Mr. Pedramaj?
Thank you, Commissioner Angel. Mark, if you could cue up that brief PowerPoint. And as that's coming on the screen, just wanted to follow up on what Commissioner Angel he introduced the Redistricting Commission for 2021. And we had 7 fine citizens appointed by Levy Court who are here tonight to work with us through this process. And we began the process of evaluating the new population information in September. And through early October, the commission did develop a recommendation, and that was presented to Levy Court first for introduction in late October, and then on the 2nd of November, we did have a committee meeting to discuss the findings and recommendations of the Redistricting Commission, and that information was forwarded tonight, introduced and forwarded tonight for public hearing, as is required under Delaware Code. And very briefly, for the public's benefit, we are about to open a public hearing on Ordinance LC 2119, the reapportionment of Levy Court districts based on the 2020 census data that has been released by the U.S. Census Bureau. And a few exhibits are on the screen right now. The first is a copy of the ordinance that's before Levy Court this evening. And you will see that it was introduced on October 26th. We're at a public hearing tonight on the 16th of November. And if this ordinance is adopted, it'll become effective upon adoption. And the information will be forwarded to the Delaware Department of Elections for coordination with the state election districts and polling places. Along with this ordinance, there are 2 attachments. The first is the written descriptions of each district. There are 6 Levy Court districts that are described individually. Of course, there are 7 total districts, and the 7th district is the entire county. That's President Pepper's district, which is the at-large district. But the 6 individual districts are the ones that are described in a narrative, and there's also an Exhibit B, which is a proposed map. And I'm not going to read all of this language to you, but this is a portion of Exhibit A. You can see it's very detailed. It reads somewhat like a deed for each of the districts, and there's a description for each one of the 6 Levy Court districts and describes them in detail. And then the Exhibit B is the actual map that reflects what's described in Exhibit A of the 6 Levy Court districts. And this is our Exhibit B. It shows the proposed boundaries as they've been put forward to you by the Redistricting Commission. Mr. Chairman, I'm going to turn the floor back to you at this time. Mr. President, at this time it would be appropriate to open up the public hearing, but before that, if there are any questions of myself or the members of the Redistricting Commission, we'd be happy to try to answer them. Thank you.
Any questions the commissioners may have? Seeing none, at this time we'll open the public hearing on ordinance LC 21-19, which has been duly advertised, and ask anyone in the audience who is in favor of this ordinance to please come forward and tell us why.
If we have any guests on WebEx that wish to address ordinance LC 21-19 in favor, now would be the time to offer those comments. Please press *3 on your mobile phone or activate the raise hand symbol on your computer.
I see no hands raised on WebEx at this time wishing to speak in favor.
Thank you. Seeing no one this time in the audience in favor, anyone in the audience that is opposed to ordinance LC 21-19, please come forward. Anyone opposed?
Similarly, if we have any guests on WebEx who wish to address this matter in opposition, LC 21-19, press *3 on your mobile device or activate the raise hand symbol on your computer and we'll bring you into the room.
No hands raised to speak in opposition on WebEx.
Thank you. At this time, we'll close the public hearing, and I'll turn it over to Commissioner Angel for a motion.
Thank you, Mr. President. No further questions from commissioners? I move to approve ordinance LC 21-19, reapportionment of levy court districts, and ordinance repealing ordinance 1120 and replacing those provisions by adopting the district boundaries proposed by the Redistricting Commission of Kent County, Delaware, with regard to reapportionment of the levy court districts, reasons stated by Mr. Pettivage, and the data provided to us in a written form.
Second. Thank you. Motion by Commissioner Angel to approve LC 21-19, second by Commissioner Hall. Any questions on the motion? Seeing none, can we have roll call, please, on the motion?
Mr. Angel?
As per my motion.
Mr. Buxton?
As per the comments stated both today and in the committee meeting, yes.
Mr. Hall?
Yes.
Mr. Howell? Absent?
Yes.
Oh, there you are. Mrs. Maston?
Yes, reason stated.
Mr. Sweeney?
Yes, for all reasons stated.
Mr. Pepper?
Yes, for reasons stated.
Mr. President, roll call reveals 7 yeas.
Thank you. Roll call reveals ordinance LC 21-19 has been approved by Levy Court. At this time, we'll close the public hearings and ask for any information items. Commissioner Angel.
Yeah. Commissioners Masson and Sweeney and I were at the Veterans Day out front of our grounds, and we had the opportunity to meet a 100-year-old pilot that was so together you would never known he was 100 years old. He got around effortlessly, and I will say when he spoke, everybody listened. It was a little E.F. Hutton. He was about 5'3", but he has a book out, and you can get it on the Amazon, he said. And I don't remember the name of it, Mr. Pettimage. I think you said you were going to look into it. So do you remember the name?
Actually, I ordered it, and I have it. It arrived yesterday, and I believe the name is Against All Odds, and it's by the pilot of a B-17 bomber who flew a number of missions during World War II, and his name is Ray Fermani from Ellesmere, Delaware. He's lived in Ellesmere for 95 years.
Wow. It was amazing to see him there on that day, be recognized and for his services and what he did for our country. So I just wanted to bring it out and have a record it in our minutes. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other information items? See none. Any public comments? Any public comments? Any commissioner comments? Commissioner Hall.
Thanks, Mr. President. While we have the members here, I just want to express my appreciation to the committee members who worked on the reapportionment for the districts. I really appreciate it. I know it was a lot of work, and I brought it in under a tight timeline, so thank you very much.
Any other commissioner comments? Commissioner Angel.
Yes, if any of the commissioners are interested in helping at the beach, picking at kits, digging them out, I've been there with my tractor the last 2 weekends, and actually the sand cut my tire right in half, and I had to go get new tires, so I finally got them on Friday and could use some extra help. Hopefully find a tractor, though, instead of a shovel. Thank you.
Thank you. Need a motion to adjourn to committee meetings?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? No. It sounds as though Commissioner Howe has joined us via phone. Welcome, Commissioner Howe. Okay. Okay, we'll start our committee meetings, and the first item on the agenda is Public Safety Committee. Commissioner Hall is the chair. Turn it over to you, sir.
Thank you, Mr. President. We should have Mr. Manley here this evening from the King County Volunteer Firefighters Association, as well as Mr. Brown from the King County Fire Chiefs Association. You want to come down and have a seat?
Yeah, join us down at the front table here. Normally we would be down there with you. However, we had a little bit of a business meeting to start with, so we started up here. But welcome. Glad to see you folks here.
Thank you. Gerald Manley, Kent County, first Vice President for the Kent County Volunteer Firefighters Association.
Jeff Brown, I currently sit as the first vice president for the Kent County Volunteer Fire Chiefs Association. I'll be installed as the county president on December 8th.
Congratulations.
Thank you, sir.
I guess.
Thank you for having us here. This began back when Mr. Pepper attended our county association meeting. And at that time, there was ARPA funding that was going to be issued to the state and the county level and the town levels. At that meeting that night, there was a motion made to send a letter to Kent County Levy Court asking for any type of funding support for the losses that the fire companies occurred during the COVID-19. So fast forward, we were asked to get from each fire company their losses, and I'll let Jeff go into that a little more, and the total. So what we have here is a spreadsheet with the total for each fire company, and then the supporting documents from each fire company that was presented to us for what their losses were, depending on it, if it was gloves, and I'll let Jeff speak on that.
All right, so I sent out a document with a format of what kind of information that we were looking to collect and present to you. It could be from full-timers, which operate our EMS. If you see an ambulance running up and down the street in the county, they're paid. That's paid staff operating that ambulance. Sometimes a volunteer will fill in from here to time. So if a full-timer called out sick, the sick time, and then the overtime, they paid another employee to cover that employee for the COVID exposure. Fundraisers that they couldn't hold, turnout gear, like my department in Camden. Anytime we had somebody that was reported with COVID on motor vehicle collisions, you had to wash your PPE and make sure everything was clean and in order. before it was back in service. Each time you wash that gear, it breaks down from time to time. Medical equipment such as gloves, masks, gowns, the state did provide a good bit of PPE, but there were a lot of times where it was backlogged where we went without for a period of time. A couple departments did some remodels. Their overnight crew that they tried to keep on hand 24/7, 365, their bunk rooms were all consolidated to one room. A couple different departments actually made a couple changes in their building and made individual bunk rooms to separate each individual person that was on call. Go through it a little bit. So increased budget for EMS supplies, like a box of gloves, just EMS gloves went up $9. Increased man hours due to absences and staffing, like I've already stated. Flow testing for SCBA and filter maintenance changes. So our air packs that we wear to go inside structure fires, we would maintain them twice the amount of what our annual inspections and cleaning were due to COVID. HVAC system in the stations, a couple stations did get them professionally cleaned every so often throughout the months. And like I said, fire gear. So I have a copy for you guys that I can leave with all the documents and the total. Total for lost income and extra expenses for the whole entire county. Couple departments that weren't covered. Citizens Hose did not report any losses. Their building was under construction. Farmington Fire Company, I had not received any numbers from them. And Magnolia Fire Company had no losses reported. For the remaining departments, total number was $2,762,940.34. And like I said, I have a copy for you guys review.
Great, thank you. Questions? Commissioner Mast.
Jeff, I might assume that that total amount covers events that were booked that had to be canceled because of COVID, as well as any planned fundraisers that most fire companies do have.
Yes,
it's a sum total of both.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, thank you.
Some of the numbers on the fundraisers are projected. Such as my department, we were going to hold a sportsman's bash, and every time we tried to sell tickets, then the state government put the COVID restrictions on, so then we couldn't have it. So that's just an example of some of the fundraisers that were canceled that are documented.
The reason I ask is I know Cheswell usually has a large fundraiser in March that raises a lot of money, as well as Clayton does the annual crab feast, as well as weddings, anniversaries, pretty much booked every weekend, as well as I think DEMA also books.
Yes, ma'am.
That training room?
Yes,
okay,
ma'am.
thank you.
If I may speak, Commissioner Masson, each one of them does have it broken down as far as the fundraisers that they submitted to us. They did not just give us a total number, so it does list everything as far as equipment versus fundraising events and things like that, and hall rentals and training room rentals.
Thanks, Gerald. Thanks, Jeff.
No problem.
Thank you.
Commissioner Sweeney?
Thanks, Commissioner Hall. To both of you, thanks for being here. Congratulations on your advancement to president. Good luck with that. I think you guys have a heck of a job in front of you. So the $2,700,000, that's not as bad as I thought it was going to be for all the fire companies. Did your committees discuss how or any mechanism for recovering that other than just asking the county? And if you're asking the county, how would you like to see us handle that?
So they were encouraged, and this I'm speaking on behalf of the county chiefs, they were encouraged to reach out to their municipal level or city level if you were City of Dover, and also try to get grant and aid through the COVID funding that was available. As far as telling you how to go about giving us the money, I don't really have an answer for that. I know the county funding that's given out now is based off of run totals and your volume of emergency response. But with this, I don't think that would be the case because everybody struggled during this time, and we made it through it.
Right. So, I mean, there's a number of suggestions, going right to the fire company and seeing what their losses were and trying to help them that way, or making some type of amount available to the Kent County Volunteer Firefighters Association, and you guys handling it with all the companies in the county. If you had a preference, how would you like to see it go?
Do you have your opinion?
No, we can't do it that way, I know. I'm just wondering what their impression is.
I think the county level would be appropriate.
All right. Thanks again for being here. Appreciate all the work you put into this.
Thank you for having us.
Any other questions?
Now, your breakdown, that is, I take it from the middle of March when this COVID happened. So is it a moving chart? In other words, that's up till this point, or did you break it off?
Dates are all on the documents for you, so that way you know from period to period.
Okay, but you still could be losing money right up to this point, right?
After these are submitted, that is correct.
Okay, just want to get that on record too.
Any other questions? Is that something that we could get sent electronically to the county administrator, the breakdown, the spreadsheet they have?
I can, yes, absolutely.
Great. Commissioner Buxton.
Appreciate you guys being here and the information you shared. I have 6, sometimes 7 that were officially in my district, Farmington being one of them, Magnolia, of course, is another. So when you mention that they are essentially not receiving funds, the concern I will have is the document itself has been reviewed by each individual department specific to theirs, but the document hasn't been shared amongst all departments for them to review and kind of get some eyeballs on what other departments put in. Is that a fair assessment?
Correct, yes.
You foresee that being an issue when they start to see what others have put in and how they received or maybe will receive money that's over and above what they put in for?
So when I originally sent out the spreadsheet, I took Camden, Wyoming's that we prepared, and I sent that as a template, just as an example of, hey, these are the things that you can get covered or put on your list.
So what I'll do tonight is reach out. I mean, I wanted the system to play out. I've been vocal that this is clearly a part of the funding mechanism, right? Fire districts and fire service. My only concern has always been that we create some kind of consistency to make sure that when it gets out, i.e. the police grants, that we're able to handle that bouncing ball. And the only way we're going to be able to handle that is for you and the folks that you represent to help us out. We're not trying to stir up a hornet's nest. We are trying to do the best we can with the money that's given to us. We've asked for your help to figure out a way to help us help you, but gosh darn it, you know how complex your organization can be, and we're going to need your help when this sees the light of day to help us have those conversations, good or bad. I think I'm being, right? I mean, if we were just talking, hanging out outside, this wouldn't sound as weird. But if we're just shooting the BS, I think you probably understand what I'm saying. So that's all. As we move forward, I have some concerns only about that issue. Thanks.
And that's a fair point. I mean, do you want more time to vet this? I mean, as umbrella organizations, is this the final word, or would you like to give it one more wash before you turn it in for consideration?
So we have our county meeting tomorrow night that we can discuss this at if you would like, and you have your chiefs meeting also this month, and then make sure that this is everybody seeing these numbers that were submitted, so that way we can get feedback from them. I think that's what I'm hearing the question, just to make sure that everybody's on the same page with this, other than them being submitted to the county level and us submitting it to you folks.
I mean, I think that's a good idea. And I don't know that we need to have you come back, but I think, that gives us a level of confidence. I mean, Commissioner Buxton, would you like to have them come back one more time, or would that satisfy your concern?
Well, honestly, I don't know what we're doing after this, because we've got, I would think, separate from the ask, is that we can't be willy-nilly on this. There's going to be, we have an audit, we have an accounting of the monies we're allocating to the hotel stays, for example. So I don't necessarily need you to come back, but clearly as a county, when we issue funds to the tune of $2+ million, which is fine, it's going to have to flush out clean, right? Makes sense, however we allocate it. That doesn't mean they have to come back, but it does mean we probably still need to speak to that. And I'm not going to speak to that. I'm going to seek guidance from the county administrator and whoever it is that we hire to allocate the funds. Here's what I'd like to know. I'm not looking for equal. I don't think that Department A should be equal to Department B or C. That's not what I'm looking for at all. I think that your expenses are your expenses. I just want all the companies to appreciate that what we're doing is what you're asking us to do, and we get it. We want to help. So help us do it right. That's it. However you think that looks, help us do it right. Yeah.
I think it's an excellent point. And so if you want to come out of those meetings and then send the county administrator final numbers, and then we'll figure out the internal process. Go ahead.
Thank you, Commissioner Hall. Just remind everyone that I'm sure these gentlemen I haven't seen the information yet, but I'm sure it's in line with this, that the ARPA funding can only be applied to effects that were created by the pandemic. And right now we're operating under the first half of the total. And I think when the ARPA Act was adopted, they created a generous time window because it was unforeseen how long this pandemic will last. There could be, this might be the first of a few more requests if we see additional impacts like we're talking about tonight. But clearly, in studying the ARPA Act, medical costs, public safety costs, lost revenue, even pay for essential employees are all covered in the law, and they would be legitimate costs to remunerate organizations for. So I'm anxious to see the documentation, and I think basically the requests have to fall in various categories, like medical expenses, other public safety expenses, lost revenue, like what Commissioner Maston was talking about with respect to anticipated fundraising that got eliminated, and we can review it under those terms, and then bring back a report to Levy Court on it. And so that's kind of our job will be to review what you presented and make sure it's in line with the federal law. And if it is, our recommendation would be that it could be supported. And if there are some that pop out that are questionable, we may have to get more information or have a discussion about them, but that's generally it. And also, while I have the floor, you all know we did put an RFP out for consulting services to develop a plan for ARPA, and that may go beyond what we're talking about tonight with respect to the fire service into other areas like nonprofit organizations and things of that nature. We're already establishing a grant program for small businesses and the tourism industry, and our consultant, when they're selected, they may want to take a look at those programs and make some modifications or adjustments to them if they see that it would be necessary. But other than that, I'm pretty confident that the types of costs that we're talking about tonight were intended to be assisted with ARPA funding. So, thank you very much.
Thanks. Commissioner Sweeney.
Thank you, sir. Steve wants to have, there's a public comment right at the end, Steve, for you to come up and speak. So that's all well and good for all the companies. Did the Kent County Volunteer Firefighters Association realize any kind of loss because of COVID?
Not the actual association. I mean, our meetings through this were canceled due to the COVID, but that was the meeting did not cost us anything.
Right. So
if we didn't serve food and things like that.
Right. Nothing revenue bearing that you guys lost.
No,
fundraisers
not that
or
I'm
anything
aware
like
of.
that. Okay, just checking.
Any other questions? All right. Thank you very much. Appreciate
Thank
you
you.
being here tonight.
Thank you.
We have a copy. Do you? Yep.
Any public comments on this issue?
Is this audio?
Go ahead, Steve.
Good evening, Steve White, past president of the Kent County Volunteer Firefighter Association and current president of the Frederica Volunteer Fire Company. And I just wanted to add on to what they said because...
Excuse me, sir. Can you stand up, please?
You want to come stand beside me?
I always wanted to do that. You know how many times he's busted me?
Could you come stand beside me so we can see the...
How many times has he busted me at one of these
I got
things?
$10 on Steve.
At least I was on time.
I got, hey, Buxton, I'm putting $10 on Steve to take that one.
Anyway, I just wanted to add on to what they've already put out to you in the documents and everything, that everybody was directed to present anything that was lost because of COVID. Just as our fire company, and I know there's a few others that didn't want to take the time to do it, and I don't know why, but anyway, we had to stop bingo starting in sometime in March whenever they said you can't do anything. So we lost at least 48 weeks of playing bingo at an average of anywhere between $400 and $600 a week. So that was one thing. The auxiliaries lost, doing Lions Club is a thing that they did meals for, and any other kind of meal preparation like sub sales and anything else. And anything we did to gain money, we couldn't do it for the whole year. So that's what we put in, other than the stuff that they talked about, PPE equipment that we couldn't get from the state, that they ran out of, we had to buy ourselves. But they did provide us quite a bit of it, but we still had to buy some. So we use a lot of that still. I just did a COVID patient this morning and had to cover all up. So we're still doing it. It hasn't gone away. So I just wanted to add on to what they have already given to you. That was our direction to anything that cost us money due to COVID. And that's the only thing that we turned in. Thank you. Shorty.
Thank you. Any other public comments?
We have any guests on WebEx that wish to address Levy Court on the item we just discussed? Press star 3 on your mobile phone or the raise hand icon on your computer.
See no hands raised on WebEx.
All right, back to you, Mr. President.
Thank you. The next committee meeting is Community Services Committee. Mr. Sweeney, Chair.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. Shepard and Mrs. Okindusky are making their way to the table to give us an update on the Howe Mill Nature Center.
Is it all right if I hand this to you?
Yes.
I want to know how Commissioner Howe got his name on the building.
I'm good. All right, good evening, commissioners, staff. It's been almost probably a little over 2 years since we've been in front of Levy Court in order to give you an update on the Howell Mill Nature Center. And it wasn't about 2 years before that where it wasn't even a nature center. So it's been a very interesting, I use that word lightly, 2 years since we've been here. COVID has affected a lot of things, including the services that we provide through the Department of Community Services. But we've fought like a lot of people to continue the best we can. And we've had positive results, positive programming with positive people. And one of those people here, Kara, your park naturalist, is here to tell you what's been going on. So I will turn the floor over to Kara.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. I see new faces. It's been so long, and a few of the old friendly ones. I gave you guys a packet so you could take the information with you this evening, just in case you needed to refer to it at any point. This is York County Park. So what you have in front of you is from June 2018, which is when we first opened the center, until October 31st of 2021. So you have everything from that time period. I felt like it was crucial so you could have really an understanding from the very beginning. When we started, it was very simple up until what we have now, which has really grown in some ways, and in other ways we're still trying to recover. The first page that you'll see is your table of contents that you can refer to, but really I tried to keep the most important things right up front. So on page 2, when you look at it, you'll notice, although we've had some ups and downs and we're still only open 3 days a week, we are now at finally 13,104 visitors that I've managed to greet. I average about 57 visitors per day. I have 3,576 people that have attended all of my programs. I still provide all the programs myself. My volunteers, they are wonderful and in many capacities. We still don't have anyone else to perform the programs, so that is 3,576 faces that I have been able to see up close. So usually it's about 29 people on average for an event. My volunteer hours currently stand at 1,763 hours I've managed from volunteers. I've received 68 applications for volunteering. The program income now reaches over $1,700, and the donation actually topped more than 743. The next page is where you'll sort of see where in 2019 was a pre-pandemic level. It was really our first year, and it wasn't even a full year. I was brought to June, or just before June, around May, was when I was made 3 days per week until the end of December. You'll notice the differences. So the visitor count is down 44%. The average visitors, instead of having 53 or 58, I have only about 33 visitors per day. The program attendees are down, and so the average is down. But I want you to see the volunteer hours are significantly higher this year. That the applications, I went from 7 in a year pre-pandemic to 47 this year. People have reached out more now than ever for a variety of reasons. Many of them are young professionals looking to boost their resumes so they can continue to climb the ladder and have a reference, which I'm happy to provide. Many of them, they've retired and they're looking for something to do. They're looking to contribute, to bring back, and many of them are working and they need a form of physical commitment to the community to feel good in a world where there can be some tension. So they wanted to have this mental health awareness throughout, which volunteering seemed to be a very critical component. While the program income is down, we're having a hard time getting people to pay for the program. People are overpaying when they do come. People do not want money back. People want to donate it through. We have no donation jar. We have no donation sign. I have absolutely nothing out there that says donate money. People hand it over willingly, wanting to invest in their community, which I find to be probably the most wonderful human piece of this. When we go the next few pages, I wanted to make sure you had a breakdown. I will not go over these with you, but you have them starting in that June 2018, right? So you have 2019. In 2020, you'll notice we were closed. We closed March 13th, and we did not open again until November. So we had quite the hiatus, but that's all right. We made some adjustments. And so 2021, you'll see all the records, November, December, are still blank as we're still going through those months. But I wanted to make sure you had at least up to date for the month. Now there's some silver lining. The Audubon supported birding station behind the Nature Center is a beautiful area. The wildlife area, it's a combination of forest and wetlands, and we've put out a variety of feeders and enrichment devices for our wildlife birds. The feeders, the food, everything is financially provided from Delaware Audubon Society. I give them reports and updates, and they were more than happy to contribute. They put out $500 every single year to continue that, which we have everything from volunteers to even school field trips have come out now to watch the feeders, to help, to study, to learn. That has been wonderful. And they've promised a minimum of $500 every year for as long as the station should stand, which is a wonderful, wonderful thing to see. Birding became a source of calm for many people after 2020, maybe a little bit into 2021. And so this provided a wonderful outlet. And I can also use it for programming. So I provide private birding experiences to help encourage conservation and protection, as well as education. So please, if you have an opportunity, it's a beautiful station set up. Audubon has a sign out there and everything. You're welcome to see the station. We participate in an international bird count every year now through Audubon called the Great Backyard Bird Count, where we have volunteers that come and they count hundreds of species. And we literally had 4 generations at a window counting at one point. So it was a wonderful time to bring the community together. Our next project that we brought on, which is page 9, was the Brecknock Butterfly Garden restoration. The Delaware Federation of Garden Clubs invested $1,500 in the restoration of the native butterfly garden at Brecknock this spring. To the financial support, we are so thankful, and the laborious support from the Howell Mill Nature Center volunteers. The garden received new signs, large planters, a paver pathway through the meadow, dozens of new native plants, plant species labels, a large boulder for butterfly sunning, hummingbird feeders with shepherd hooks. It's beautiful. It was a major project, including cutting back overgrowth, removing invasive weeds, introducing new, healthy, native plants, and more. The continual success of the garden depends on the support of volunteers who are educated, and they are managed by myself at the Howell Mill Nature Center. There are dedicated weekly volunteers who maintain that garden. The autumn harvest of native seeds are packaged. They are now getting ready to be distributed to the public to encourage native plantings. This in turn creates an expanding network an expanding network of healthy habitats, sustainable ecosystems, and can we say for an agriculture state, the importance of native pollinators for crop production and fertilization. The garden has also offered to give us $500 additional every year to maintain garden supplies and to hopefully improve programming. So again, we can continue more education out into the park as well. So that was another one of our big projects for this year. Our next one you'll see, we had a pergola on page 10 that was in dire need of repair and replacement. The grapevines were really what was holding it up. We were approached, Mike Rigby was approached by an Eagle Scout, Ian Horton, and they turned the project over to me to actually replace the pergola. It stands in its place. They managed to get all of the funding. These boys were young and they were fantastic. And they worked in very hot conditions. And they were fantastic. And it's a beautiful pergola now, stained with 2 lattice because we've planted native honeysuckle now. So it should actually grow appropriate plants for that. You can already see people's senior photos and engagement photos being taken right there, which is wonderful. It was important that we showed you the future. The next few pages are going to be about the future programs that are held for Kent County. So, of course, we have our birding station and that private birding experience, which we continue to put out to the public. Our next one, we have 2 specific free programs I offer every month. It's Natural Connections, which is for families with children ages 2 and up. It is a simple, free program. Anyone can come out and participate in just unstructured green play and to be able to connect back into the community. Please note that these 2-year-old children, many of them were born just as the pandemic was coming, and this is the first time that they get to see playmates, that they get to see other children, and even people, adults, without masks, because we generally do this outside in safe areas with distance. Our other one is our Trail Connections, which is for trail hiking ages 50 and over. I cannot emphasize the amount of adults that came. This is my full program. It fills every time with people looking not just to learn, but to connect with other adults in the area. After isolation for so long, it was important for them to be outside where it was safe, where they didn't have to worry about the indoor masks or being concerned about having enough space for themselves to maintain their own personal boundaries. And so this has been a wonderful program to offer. And again, those I will do for free because that was important to bring people back in. As we will be closed for the holidays. I don't get many holidays off, but I'll get 24th and 25th. I'm there every Saturday. And the next page will just continue to show you more programs. I'm continuing to build with what I can. We've received donations of materials, supplies, and some educational products. Wesley University, which is no longer, they were kind enough to offer some of their materials so I could build education programs from them. Because we still continue to build that base of curriculum and education tools, which are very important. It's one thing to teach someone about a frog. It's another thing to have the posters and we actually have real frogs that have been preserved to get up close with, and we've got the skeletons of the frogs now, which give it a much better program. The last page that will be going out for that is the We Love Our Volunteers, which just continues to first thank all of the volunteers that we've had. They've been absolutely monumental in the success of the center and the garden, but as well as hopefully calling others out to come together. It's not just about working in the community. This is about bringing people together, people who are looking for others who are like-minded, investing in their community. That is very important for these people. It's not just about the hours. I have reached out to my volunteers, and I did let them know that I would be here tonight. And if they had anything that they would like to say in regards to their time and what it means to volunteer for their parks, I felt like this, of everything, is most important. These people are working for free for you to maintain your facilities. They should never be overlooked. So there are just a few, and they were happy to put it down. It is transparent. I have not edited it, so it is, for better or worse, everything there. The next page, which is 17, I did want to make sure you knew that a milestone happened in my own career, which is that I received excellence in environmental education by the Delaware Association of Environmental Educators for the year 2019. I was awarded in February 2020. This makes my 6th recommendation, but my 3rd for the state, through DENREC, through Delaware State Parks, and now through the DAEE. So I wanted to make sure you knew that it wasn't just in the park that's being recognized, but the work that we are all doing in the parks is also being seen outside of Kent County parks. It's being seen statewide, which was important. The next pages are for you to go through for your bedtime stories. They are public comments that come in. I have a place for anyone to come in who visits are welcome to leave their name, their zip code, which may be of interest in your district, as well as any comments they had, concerns. Again, transparency is important, and I wanted to make sure you had an idea of what people are saying about your facility. So you have some reading to do or not. It's entirely up to you. But again, to remind you, my name is Kara Okanuski. There's some new faces here. The Howell Nature Center, if you have not been, is in Brecknock Park. It's about a 3-minute walk from the parking lot, and I invite all of you to please come see it. It's really transformed to something beautiful. Thank you.
Any questions for Ms. Okanuski or Mr. Shepard? Carrie, you've done a great job there.
Thank you.
How far you've come in the last 3 years is amazing. And the progress and the public recognition is just a small part of the successes that you're being recognized for. So,
thank you, sir.
Personally, I just want to thank you for all that you've done. Just one question. The first day hike on page 13, that is January 1st, right?
That is January 1st.
Okay. Just want to make sure. If that's going out to the public, we need to change that in the book.
Oh, yes. First I will, I do see it. Yeah. I do see that.
I'm likely to have my grandsons that day.
Yeah. Angel just sent me the proof, and I will make sure that that changes.
I'm likely to have my grandsons that day, so it might be something we can do together. So.
Do you remember 2 years ago, was it the hawk or the owl that was out? I think
the owl.
The owl,
yep.
Right? Mm-hmm.
Yep.
I remember that.
Any other questions for Mr. Pettitamage?
Not a question, but also a comment, a compliment. Great report. And the testimonials here are amazing. Not surprising, but just want to thank you for bringing the nature to the people in a way that they can access it, and particularly young people, because it's important that they get an opportunity to fall in love with nature and at an early age. And that way, it's something that carries with them into adulthood and everything else. So kudos. Keep up the great job.
You.
And looks like you probably have other ideas you aren't even sharing with us yet in here.
It is a continual think tank of how to get people in, not just one time. The idea was to have a park that you didn't just, I noticed it was very separated. If you went to the park, it's because you walked the trail. Or if this person went to the park, it was because they did the playground. I wanted them to be able to come and do the playground and walk the garden and stop at the nature center. Or if your exercise is your goal, stop at the nature center and along the way and look at the birding station. It was really to not just draw you only to the park, but to keep you to explore it, because there's so many beautiful things at that park. There's so much that you guys have built.
Excellent. Mr. Maston?
Admittedly, I've never been to this location, but looking at some of the comments that have been made, I'm sure you're doing a fine job. Particularly, I'm sure you're proud of the accomplishments, but I think that your enthusiasm is probably contagious.
Yeah, that tends to happen. I'm trying to contain the enthusiasm right now. Keep it there. It's
Mr. Buxton?
Wonderful.
I thank you for your efforts. Wonderful. It's fun to see the program grow. I would like to have a conversation maybe offline about some potential opportunities that are out there that maybe include your role, currently right now, part-time, right? If we can find a way to move it outside of Brecknock and start to utilize the other parks at the same time, or different times, not at the same time. But that's a conversation we can have.
Absolutely. I've been studying even specifically Hun Nature Park. It's a valuable historic asset.
It was a good answer, a really good answer.
All right, no other questions. Kara, Jeremy, thanks for being here. We appreciate it very much. Nice
Thank you very much for your support.
Thank you.
Any public comments? Anybody online that wants to make a public comment? Anybody? Mark?
If there's anyone that's online who wants to make comment, please raise your hand or press *3. No hands raised on WebEx.
Thank you, sir. Seeing none, back to you, Mr. President.
Thank you. Next item on the agenda, Planning Services Committee. Commissioner Buxton, Chair. Turn over to you, sir.
Thank you, sir. Believe me, you're going to ride this thing all by yourself today. Oh, we got a little help in the back. Let's go. Usually I see like a board of sorts, and wasn't that the last one that we had?
There were a few more last time.
It's all good. Well, welcome aboard.
Good evening, Commissioners. As you know, the Magnolia area was identified in the 2018 Comprehensive Plan for development of a transportation improvement district. And we have started that process. What's before you is the initial agreement. As we've discussed before, this process is iterative, right? We start with the agreement, we agree to the boundary, and then we work with DelDOT. DelDOT does the vast majority of the work to do the studies, develop effectively recommendations for future improvements, develop fee schedules, et cetera. So we're at the first stage of this process for Magnolia, and Sarah Coakley from DelDOT, who manages this program for them, is here to sort of go through this agreement and go through what the process will be.
Good evening. Thank you for inviting me here and giving me the opportunity to explain the TID and the agreement. So just for review, since it's been a while, I think it was like last February or March that I was here to talk about the other TIDs in Kent County. So it's a geographic area that's defined for the specific purpose of securing the transportation improvements in that area that are needed to accommodate the future land use plan of the local government. And so it basically replaces the need for development to do a traffic impact study when the development comes in consistent with the future land use plan for the TID area. Instead, they pay a fee that then is held in an account that can then only be used for the agreed upon transportation improvements in that TID. And it's a better way of coordinating together. So oftentimes with the individual development TIS, traffic impact study process, DelDOT's trying to play catch up in terms of identifying and prioritizing transportation needs. So with the TID, we work with you all to identify the needed improvements to accommodate the land use, so we know what they are ahead of time and then can work on funding them together. So just some of the benefits of creating a TID. So comprehensive infrastructure planning, increased coordination between DelDOT and Kent County. The projects that are within a TID get extra points in DelDOT's prioritization process for our capital transportation program. Also, the TID fees stay local. They can only be used for projects in that TID. A TID also improves equity among competing developers. So with the traffic impact study process, only developments of a certain size are required to do one. So basically anything that generates at least 50 peak hour trips or 500 daily trips is required to do one, but anything that is coming in smaller than that, so basically like 49 single family houses or less, isn't required by DelDOT to do a traffic impact study. With the TID, more people pay into it than just the bigger developments. And but they pay according to the number of units that they're building, so it's more tied to their trip generation and what they're actually contributing toward the needs for the transportation improvements. And then it can act as an economic development tool by providing known costs to developers. They'll know ahead of time what fees they have to pay for development on a given lot. And then expedited review as well. A traffic impact study can take at least 6 to 9 months to do and have reviewed and approved by DelDOT, and tens of thousands of dollars. So it saves that time and money from developers as well. So a TID, like Sarah mentioned, starts with an initial TID agreement that outlines the boundaries, the horizon year, which is basically the year for which we want the land use forecast to be done. And then it's also the year by which we're going to aim to have the transportation improvements done. And then it also outlines administration of the TID, and I'll review everything in this presentation. And then it is iterative. So basically once the agreement is signed, then DelDOT will do traffic counts to get updated actual real-time counts at intersections in the TID. And then we will work with the county on their parcel-specific land use forecast, and we model it. We use something called Synchro traffic impact analysis to model the future land use and then identify the needed improvements. And then we come back and work with you all on the list of needed improvements. DelDOT does the cost estimates for them, and we work together on a fee structure for the TID. So for the Magnolia TID, the target horizon year's 2045, and then the participant boundary generally follows Tidbury Creek and St. John's River in the north, and then Route 1 and the Little Heaven TID boundary in the east, and then it follows parcel lines, Spring Creek and Hudson Branch in the south, and then streamlines, parcel lines, and the county growth boundary, and also the Woodside and Camden municipal boundaries on the east side. And then, so basically in the Kent County Comprehensive Plan, there was a Kent South TID identified, and so this expands that a bit. That was identified before the Little Heaven TID was even an idea. And so now that that one exists, we're proposing to expand this Magnolia TID boundary to basically share a boundary with the Little Heaven. So where Little Heaven TID ends, this one starts. And that enables the town of Magnolia to participate, and also includes some additional vacant developable land on the west side of Route 1. And then this way, there's no parcels in between a TID. And so then therefore, basically everyone, regardless of which TID they're in, will need to contribute to the transportation facilities in the area. We won't get into a situation of, developers saying, well, wait a minute, they're in this TID, they're in this one, I'm stuck in between, what am I supposed to do? And then the town of Magnolia is interested in being a partner with us on this. They really would just need to provide a parcel-specific land use forecast for the parcels that are within town limits. And they've identified some recent transportation improvements within their town boundary as part of a traffic study that they did. So the TID would be an opportunity to implement those improvements also. And so this is a map showing the boundaries. So the black line is the area or the participant boundary. And so it covers the parcels that are included in the TID. So basically development that comes in within that area that's consistent with the land use forecast would contribute to the TID. And I'll review some exemptions a little bit later in the presentation. And then the purple lines are the roadway segments, and the green intersections, green dots are the intersections to be included. And so you'll see the intersections and segments go outside the participant boundary a little bit. That's because land use within the boundary impacts traffic a little bit outside of the boundary. So that's why the facilities, the transportation facilities that we analyze and recommend improvements for, goes out a little bit further than the actual land area.
Hold on one second. I think Commissioner Sweeney.
Thanks, sir. Sir, so I've attended a lot of the capital improvement program presentations that were done by planning and John Gaines and throughout the Camden area, from the Punch and Run, Route 13, the South Camden bypass, Irish Hill Road. How does the TID fit into the capital improvement program? Because it seems like they've already made plans and the TID's not done yet.
No, so we will in addition to doing traffic counts, and before we'll include any of the projects that are already in our CTP in like the baseline modeling, and then this will identify anything else that could be needed, basically. So a lot of our capital transportation program projects are based on like requests that we get from local governments, municipalities, also based on like what's called a regional peninsula model. That's another way of modeling traffic on a like broader regional level. So the TID looks specifically at that area and looks specifically at the future land use plan, whereas the other modeling really looks at the whole Delmarva Peninsula. And then the TID also looks out further as well than what our peninsula model looks out, which is usually like 10 years.
So there's a chance that information that comes from the TID could impact what's already been put in place for that capital improvement program.
It could. It likely won't impact like which projects are included, but if the TID, depending upon when the fee structure gets eventually approved, could potentially speed up those projects. Like if anything's been identified in like the last years of the CTP, because it's like a 6-year program, and usually we add projects to years 5 or 6. But with the TID, there could be the potential to move the project quicker, depending upon the fee structure and the fees are collected.
So just to put a bug in your, I appreciate you coming and presenting this to us tonight. I appreciate it, because a lot of my district isn't growing in that way, but I'm still going to be impacted by it. But is there a chance that we could have that presentation about all of the projects that are being done in Kent County in front of the Levy Court instead of from, because they have public meetings, but not everybody has an opportunity to go see them. Just to put a bug in your ear, maybe they can come and do that for us.
Yeah, I think that's a great idea. So we have the section that I'm in, regional systems, has like circuit rider planners. And so there is one specifically for Kent County. And so, yeah, I'd be happy to reach out to them and put you in contact with them.
Perfect, thank you.
I can send their contact information to Mr. Petit Jamange as well. Yeah, I think that's a good idea. So the agreement basically commits the 3 parties, so Kent County, Town of Magnolia, and Delaware, to work together to establish the TID. And so it commits the county and town to provide a land use forecast at the parcel level. And then DelDOT will conduct the traffic counts, develop an existing conditions report. We'll also model the projects that are already in our CTP. And then we will model the land use forecast as well. And then based on the modeling, we identify a list of needed transportation improvements and provide concepts and cost estimates. And then from there, it's a partnership to work together so all parties agree on the what we call a land use and transportation plan and the TID CTP. So basically the list of transportation improvements and then their costs. And then after that, all parties also work together to agree on the infrastructure fee schedule. And then the agreement has Kent County collecting the TID fees and holding them in an account. Since the county issues the building permits, we'd like to have the fees collected at that stage of the development process, because that's, you know, when a developer knows for sure they're actually going to build the building. And so it's smoother and easier for the county to collect the fees since they're already approving the building permits. And then the agreement has the county and town hosting and attending public meetings for TID development, such as being here tonight. And then any public involvement needed for the actual TID improvements listed in the agreement. DelDOT will have them, they'll still follow our public involvement policy. So basically when they're proposed to be in the CTP, they'll be included in those public hearings there every other September, because we're updating our CTP every other year now. And then during design, there's at least 2 other public meetings as well for all of our transportation improvement projects during the project development phase. And then exemptions from TID participation. So we've included 2. One is where the development's not consistent with the land use forecast. And if the difference between the land use forecast and what the development is proposing is enough to warrant a traffic impact study. So it's, again, it's 50 peak hour, 500 daily trips. Then at that point, they would still need to do a traffic impact study. And then the other exemption is a complete exemption from participating in the TID at all for the land use applications listed in subsection D of Kent County Code in the adequate public facilities section, except for public or private educational institutions, public safety facilities, and public utilities. So everything on that list would be exempt from TID participation except for those 3 things there. And that is because while they may be exempt from the adequate public facilities requirements, they're not exempt from our traffic impact study requirements. And they do still generate quite a bit of traffic. So what we would like to do is include an institutional rate in the fee schedule for those 3 uses, and to account for the lower trip generation of them compared to, like, say, a shopping center or an office or industrial warehousing. And it's consistent with what we've done in our other TIDs. We have an institutional rate for those uses. And we actually have been including, like, hospitals in there as well for the institutional rate. And then for the infrastructure fee program, the agreement outlines requirements for cases where either the developer may offer or the county or DelDOT or Magnolia may want the developer to actually build improvements instead of paying into the TID fund. So that is an option. Instead of paying into the TID fund, developer could actually build the improvements. And sometimes we require that, well, in cases of safety. For instance, if a large development is going in on a road with no shoulders, then we would want them to build the shoulders, and then they would get credit for that part against what their TID fees would be. They would, and everyone would still have to build their turn lanes on their own as well as their entrances. But these provisions just allow the county and DelDOT more flexibility in terms of addressing safety issues as they come up, so that so that we don't not have the ability to address them. And then the TID participation requirements are documented in both a separate infrastructure recruitment agreement with each developer and owner, and then that gets recorded, and then the recordation information gets noted on the record plan, so that way everyone's clear on what their requirements are, and it's documented in cases of change of ownership of the land as well. And then the fee program, obviously we don't have no way of knowing what that will even be until we get the list of transportation improvements and their estimates. but we do know that we want the fee to be a per unit cost for residential units and a per building square footage cost for non-residential. And then we also build a factor in for inflation, because obviously as the years go by, the cost of transportation improvements goes up. So the fees increase annually on January 31st based on the consumer price index up to a maximum of 4% per year. And then for grandfathering, owners that have already submitted record plans to either the county, town, or DelDOT prior to the effective date of the agreement are not required to participate in the TID, but they may request it. But then obviously anyone that comes in after the TID agreement and the infrastructure fee program is effective, they would be required to participate in it. And then for monitoring, DelDOT will monitor traffic, will periodically get traffic counts for the facility's boundary. And so since we're getting ready to do counts this coming January, well, getting set up to do the counts, we'll actually do them in April or May. The next time period where we would do counts would be in 2027. We'd like to do like a comprehensive recount of everything and remodeling every 5 years. So that's what we're committing to do here as well.
Can I ask you a question about the counts?
Yep.
You stated you're getting ready to do counts.
Yes.
You haven't done counts in this manner in 5 years?
So we would be committing to redo them every 5 years. I'm not sure when the last time we did counts comprehensively in this area is. So that's kind of like the next step after the agreement is signed, is to get counts done in the spring.
Counts that you speak of, you say you're getting ready to Magnolia area, and then what are the counts? You're just counting the number of cars on various roads.
So it's at the intersections. We do turning movement counts. So it's basically for each approach and each movement, number of cars, vehicles going through, and then making lefts and rights for each approach.
In the area.
And then we also like to do bicycle and pedestrian counts as well at the intersections.
In this particular area or throughout the county?
In the TID area.
In this particular area?
Yes.
And then without the TID, with those counts, eventually you'd identify areas of need? Improvement areas?
So without the TID, we would, the counts that we would like to do is contingent on the TID, basically. So without a TID, we have a regular traffic counting program, and it's it does tend to be every 5 or 6 years. It depends on the roadway classification. So like local versus collector versus versus arterial. So it depends on the roadway classification, how frequently we get counts. But at the most frequent, it's like every 5 or 6 years. And then in between, we do like projections. So like that's another benefit of the TID, is that we actually get in-person, in the field counts every 5 years. That's not outside of a TID, that's not guaranteed.
For a constituent, a resident, that it gives DelDOT the information that they may need to determine areas where improvements would be warranted.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Yep. And then the report that we will give you to go along with the counts will include what improvements that DelDOT thinks are needed to be included in our CTP. And actually that report will be like every 2 years along with our CTP process. So we update our capital transportation plan every 2 years. So basically at the beginning of that process, we'll work with you to identify, what improvements are likely to be needed to be included in that 6-year program next. And then, again, so this is just talking about the county and town. We'll also want your list of improvements that the county believes are needed to be included in the next 6-year CTP. And then inclusion in our CTP like basically the projects still have to follow our prioritization process, but they do get extra points. So there's like 7 criteria that are used to prioritize all our projects in our CTP, and one of them is economic development. And then within that category, projects in TIDs get extra points. So next steps are for the parties to sign the agreement, and then DelDOT would like to collect traffic counts and develop an existing conditions report. We'd like to do the counts either in April, May, or October. So I've already put in a budget request and everything to do the counts this coming April and May. And then the county and town will need to develop the parcel-specific land use forecast. And then from there, the timeline's about 12 to 18 months for full TID development. That includes everything, including coming back and agreeing on the list of transportation improvements, their costs, the fee program, and an amended agreement that includes everything else. I'm happy to answer any other questions.
One comment. Thank you. Thank you for your efforts, both of you. Mr. Pettit-Demas.
Thank you, Commissioner Buxton. Thank you, Sarah, for being with us tonight. I was wondering if you could give us an update on the South Frederica and Little Heaven TIDs.
Absolutely. I'm glad you asked. I was hoping you were going to ask that. So our consultant actually just submitted draft concepts last week and reviewed them with us, and DelDOT provided a few comments, and they're updating them. And they're expected to have the revised concepts and the estimates ready for me to coordinate with Sarah to get to you all next month, in December. So it's yeah, we're getting close.
Excellent.
Yep.
Glad to hear it. Thank you so much.
And that's for both of them, for both Little Heaven and South Frederica.
Fantastic. Thank you.
Looking for permission from myself to ask you a question. Don't laugh, and no, I'm not maybe pushing as hard as I was for Magnolia. But who's next? Maybe not next week, maybe not next month or next year, but the area. Do you have an idea of the area that might be next? Is it possibly Milford? Is it Smyrna? Or is there no next yet?
I'm not sure. That's a good question. I know Milford, like Southeast Milford TID is almost done. Yeah, I'm thinking probably somewhere between Milford, like kind of on the north side of Milford is kind of my educated guess.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Thank you. Any other comments? Yes, Commissioner Angel.
Yes, just a quick question, because I always hear it takes 12 to 18 months. How come it takes so long? Why can't it be shortened to get projects finished, other than always hearing 12 to 18 months?
Yep. So the modeling is what takes the longest, and basically we need 6 months, and it's largely because we usually have 5 or 6 TIDs under development at the same time, and we have 2 staff members that are available to run the software, and so they have to. And they've actually already started building the network, the roadway network, intersection network in the software, and then they have to enter each future land use individually, access points onto the state network, and get that all in there first before they run the analysis. And then once they run the analysis, they have to download all the reports and do the tallies from there. And then also because it's iterative, DelDOT will coordinate with staff during that whole time to, submit the results and discuss the transportation improvements. It can also take time to get concurrence with the other DelDOT sections because we like to make sure that our project development sections and our engineers agree with the improvements. That helps with the buy-in too during the CTP prioritization process. When a project is added to it, the engineers already know the history of it and what its purpose is, and that can actually enable project development to move quicker. But yeah, it's just a function of the resources that we have available and doing a lot of these at the same time.
Any other comments? No? Seeing none? Okay. I think we'll leave it at that. I can give you a shout tomorrow. Next steps as far as getting a signed agreement, the preliminary signing. Other than that, I guess we're good for now. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Any public comments? Any public comments regarding this particular topic?
Anyone on the,
Now, Boyd White. Since I'm getting older and my hearing has gone to pot, I'll have to go home and listen to the video because there was a lot of things I couldn't understand. So therefore, because I couldn't hear it, I can't understand it. But the boundary, is all that done at once within the boundary? Is that, or is it just sections of the boundary done at each time? I didn't get that from the DelDOT representative.
Sir, would you like to return to the microphone, if you don't mind? I didn't want to get it wrong, so I'm not going to guess.
Yeah, so you're correct. Yeah, basically the analysis and everything looks at that whole area at one time. So we get the counts over the course of a couple weeks in that whole area, and then we model the land use forecast and identify improvements within that whole area based on the future land use forecast.
If there's any development within that boundary that you showed us, are all new developers required to enter into the TID agreement?
They will once the fee structure is adopted.
And the year 2045 is when that TID study will begin, or is it begun already?
So the 2045 is the horizon year for the future land use. So basically looking at what the county expects to be built between now and 2045. And then it's also the goal to have the transportation improvements done construction by then.
It's a lot to take in. It's a lot to take in.
Yeah, the PowerPoint presentation, is that a public document? The PowerPoints are public documents, so that assists you in some of the information.
I guess the question, the big question is, two questions. Without going into any detail, the applicant for the Peachtree area, is he required to enter into this agreement? And then him or any applicant going forward, is their application approved before the improvements of the road are gone in, or after the improvements are done?
So if they're submitting an application after the fee schedule is set, then and they are consistent with the land use forecast and they're not a minor subdivision, then they would be required to participate and pay a fee, basically per house if it's residential, or per building square footage for commercial, and then the fee would be used to do the improvements. But their approval would not be contingent on the improvements being done. It would be contingent on them paying the fee.
Okay. All right. That's my questions for now, and I'll go home and I'll listen to the whole video. So I appreciate your time and thank you all.
Other public comments in the chamber? Seeing none, how about on air?
I see no hands raised for comments at this time.
Seeing none, Mr. President, back to you.
Thank you. Next item on the agenda is Public Works Committee. Commissioner Howe, are you still with us?
I'm somewhere. Can you hear me?
Loud and clear. You got your committee. The first item has been crossed off. We'll just have the one item, Influence Screens Award, and Diana is at the table.
Right. Very good. I'll let her speak.
Okay. Good evening, Commissioners. Tonight we're here to talk about an equipment procurement bid award for influence screens for the plant. In 2019, we started working with KCI and they performed a study of screens. What we were looking for is a better capture rate of trash and materials to prevent that from getting into the treatment system. After that study was done, we prepared bid documents, and an invitation to bid was advertised in October on 2 dates in the Delaware State News. They were additionally sent to 4 of the manufacturers that were selected out of the feasibility study. Bid opening was held on November 4th of 2021. 4 bids were submitted, and part of the bid document had a scoring system, so this was not just a low bid award. There's a table attached to the memo which shows the rankings. It shows the cost of the bids that were submitted as well as their scoring. Parks and Corporation submitted their bid. They did not use the bid documents. They did not submit complete information, so they were not scored. And additionally, there is a memo submitted by KCI, our engineer, which gives some more details about how the proposals were ranked. The recommendation is to award to Saveco North America. The total bid for the 2 screens is $329,000. $329,368. We're a little bit short of funds. Those additional funds will come from working capital reserves. The funding is $310,000. Mr. Howell, back to you.
Yes. Okay, thank you. I did notice, and we talked about the fact that Safeco was not the lowest bidder. We generally go to the lowest bidder, if we can. But they were also the highest score. They just offered more of what we wanted. And we had $310,000 estimated for this type of activity. And like you said, the rest of the money, that will be used, and the rest of the money will come from the capital reserves. So I'm in favor of it. So are there any questions from you folks? All right, let's move this to the business meeting if everybody's in favor.
Glenn, Al Angel, I have a question
Yeah.
before you move forward.
Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead. I
Okay.
can't see it.
That's okay. And that was one of my questions because of the bid, but it had a high score. But when you look at the scoring process, according to all the data that's given, they're all well qualified with experience. All the screens appear to be capable of meeting the capacity. The only difference is maybe the cleaning of the screens, and all of them have the same warranty, 1 year. So that's an awful big expense for something that's so similar. That's why I wanted to find out, why are we going to a company other than this one's a little closer, it's in Illinois than California. So I just wanted to find out, could we usually go with the lowest bid? And if everything's apropos to what we're looking for, why are we going with the highest bidder then?
So what we did was, this was not a low bid situation. We based it on scoring. So the bid document had a scoring system based on statement of qualifications, location for manufacturer, parts and service, warranty, compliance with specs, completeness of bids, and price. So the basis of the bid and the comparison of the bids was the score. So it's being awarded based on the score. Price was 30% of the scoring. So it's not solely based on price. And that's on page 5 of 5 of the KCI memo that was, the letter that was attached to our memo. It shows the scoring system done for the 3 bids, JWC, Safeco, and Hydrodyne. So Safeco received the highest score. They received, though they didn't receive the majority of points for price, they outscored the other competitors. And that's on page 5 of 5.
I see what you're saying, but just I'm having a hard time, I guess, comprehending, because when you look at the price of screens, JWC's $189,890, Safeco's $240. And the price of 2 washer compactors, it's $94,090 and $84,000. And then you get the total price. The price is lower, which was the lowest bid, as you said, and the optional service contract was $100 lower. So why aren't we going with JWC? I understand the scoring, what you just said.
Right. So in terms of why didn't we just go with low bid? Again, we were looking for certain things, certain qualifications in the equipment, and the scoring is what was done here. I can't debate the scoring. If there's, are you asking why we didn't go with low bid to begin with? Because once we set up the bid documents, we're required to follow the bid documents unless the commissioners are recommending that we throw out all the documents and start over. So this was done as a scoring process. Have we ever scored other things? The answer is yes. We also score when we select engineers. That's completely based on score. So it is allowed to be based on score. The recommendations for Safeco were, because as listed on page 5 of 5, is that they suggested Safeco for both screens and compactors. They met the required performance bond. Their total price was $309,368. They have an 85% capture rate, which was the main objective for the county. They have easy maintenance procedure for the equipment. Safeco has over 40 years of experience. They have their own testing facility in the UK and several locations in the US offering parts and service, as well as similar installations and references as well. So I don't know if that helps answer your question for you about why Safeco was selected, but that is part of the details of the memo. And that actually also happens to be on page 5 of 5.
All right, thank you.
Any other questions or comments? I don't know if we ready to vote on this? No comments?
Yes.
Okay. All in favor of Safeco North America?
Are we going to consent,
I
sir?
have no idea.
Mr. Howell, are we going to consent agenda?
Yes. Yes. So, did everybody vote?
I see hands up.
6 up, 7 of yours is
How
up.
many we got?
6 up here, 7 of yours is up.
Yeah, I'm for it. All right, good enough. We'll pass this on to the business meeting. When, Mike? Next week?
Next week. That's correct, Commissioner Howe.
Okay, good enough. Good. All right, so that is taken care of. Any comments from anyone in the audience or in the atmosphere? All right, I'm not hearing any, so, Mr. President, back to you.
There's no,
Okay.
people
Thank
online.
you. The Public Works Committee will adjourn. Do we have anything for executive session tonight? If not, at this time, we are adjourned.